Okay, so it is recording. See the REC, so you see it right there. If you want to be on video, you can be on video. If you do not want to be on video, that is perfectly fine too. No worries, you could put it in the chat. So that is the biggest thing right there. I'm gonna give you a clap of the hand to say thank you for coming, most definitely, during this time. And it is 11:34. Thank you, Aaron, for the clap. I do want to say, we want to say thank you to everyone that has been able to make some time to come into the space. I can see like the number of folks that signed up match the number of folks that are here. So that's still amazing. So thank you. Hola, Erica. So what I do want to say is, and I think there's some questions about why was this presentation, why is this presentation being held? Main reason behind it is that we've noticed over the past couple of weeks, everyone is still adapting to social media. More specifically, we also know the pros, but also the challenges that can come with using social media and spaces for virtual meetings. And one of them will result our favorite app or our favorite application called Zoom, where we've seen that that's been the space of choice in order to hold meetings, see family members, to be a little morbid, go to funerals, be able to connect with family members abroad, weddings, all those things. Like Zoom is becoming one of those spaces that we are now as a space communicating and connecting with each other. So within that, there's also some pros of that, but the challenges involve Zoom bombings. And one example of that was the recent Zoom bombing that occurred at the New Brunswick campus a week and a half ago in relation to folks coming into the spaces and really showing off and kind of putting out there very racist and bigoted kind of language, as well as images that made the university community uncomfortable, and also was in a way during Black History Month that we're still in right now. Shout out to all of our Black and African orgs. And more specifically, during the timing that it occurred, it impacted some communities, some trauma, and most importantly, kind of like, what are we doing? So and then also just to give myself an introduction, my name is Gary Santos Mendoza, pronounced he, him, his, or el. I serve as the director of the Intercultural Resource Center. Wink, wink, it's the brand that's on front of TV. And more or less, we're the diversity, equity, inclusion aspect of the institution. I advise on numerous amounts of these organizations, and I felt within conversation as well with our student life advisors that will be coming in later, there was a need to make sure everyone is trained to know how to approach Zoom in relation to everything that's going on during cultural months, for regular meetings in the future, because as we continue to use Zoom much more on a consistent basis, there are possibility for new attacks to occur within our virtual community. And that's something that we want to try to not only prevent, but empower all of you to know what to do in those spaces when that occurs. So at this time, I will be quiet. I'm going to give it to Jaletta, and I'll be approving people there. As I said, shout out to everybody saying hi. If you have any questions in reference to the presentation, just put it in the chat and we will get to it in the end. At this time, I'm gonna give Jaletta to introduce herself, and Jaletta is all yours. Take it away.
Right. Thank you, Gary. And hello to everyone in this Zoom platform. My name is Jaletta Reams. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. I am the program coordinator and the responsible rater supervisor. I work in the Office of Reservations and Special Events. So for those that had, are in person, your in-person events, everything was filtered through my department, and I probably have connected with quite a few of you to handle the logistics for your events. So as Gary said, the importance of putting this together is for you guys to understand and to be educated on what you can do to ensure that you are having a successful and safety first Zoom event. And it's really taking the proactive steps to ensure a safe environment for not only yourself as the host, but also for your participants, your attendees as well. So I will be doing this live presentation. I will share my screen. Again, questions, please put them in the chat and we will address those questions at the end of the presentation. All right. Hopefully everyone can see my screen. Now, the first step, once you are logging into your Zoom account, is your ruckers.zoom.us. As you see here, you have the join, host, sign in, and sign up. You have to have a registered Rutgers Zoom account to be able to use the Rutgers platform. I know a lot of us have our own personal accounts, but you have to use the Rutgers account. If you are unfamiliar and haven't signed up yet, it's very simple to do. Once you sign up, it will bring you to this page right here. And then this will take you to activate the activation page. And at that point, you will get to this. And it's very simple. You want to make sure the only thing that you need to check off as far as the services is the Rutgers Zoom meetings right here. Usually the account becomes active instantly. Sometimes it can be a 2-hour window. Just so you know that if you're trying to get in, you're like, wait, I can't get in. Just give it up to 2 hours. But usually it will happen as soon as you authenticate and they know who you are, putting in your net ID and your password. You will have access to your Rutgers Zoom account. So this is my Rutgers Zoom account. And as you see here, we have under meetings, your upcoming meetings, previous meetings, your personal room, which I will discuss further on in the presentation, and your meeting templates. For this, I'm actually going to schedule a meeting. All of this is very much, of course, your topic, what the meeting is about. For this, I'm just gonna do student org test. As you can see, I was doing that. Your description, you can leave it blank, it's optional, or you can add just a bit of an overview of what your event is. The date, time, and the duration of their event. All right, now I'm going to do this. Usually Zoom events is between 45 and an hour. Usually do like an hour block, but you can extend that. The time zone, we're all on Eastern Standard Time, but you did have the option to change that. Reoccurring meetings. So this is pretty important for student orgs. I know that you have either bi-weekly meetings. So to make it really simple, when you choose reoccurring meeting, you can click the date if it's daily, if it's weekly, monthly, or there's no fixed time. All right. So once you selected that, okay, yes, my meeting is going to be held every Monday at, through the month of March or whatever the end date is. You can all include that here. Important registration. So I know that this has been a really big thing, and it's really important to do a pre-registration. And there's a number of reasons, but one in particular, the registration allows you to be able to control who is going to be in your Zoom meeting. For example, some of the options for your registration, very simple, your full name and their email address. You do have the option to add additional questions if you choose to do so, but those are the three important ones. Once your registration is set, an email will be sent to the participant. You can send out the email and they will have to register. They won't have the Zoom link. They won't have any of the important information of your event, passcode, your meeting ID. They won't have any of that until they register. So this is definitely something that you have to do in order to protect and be proactive into securing and making sure that your event will go off as flawless as it can be, but also to consider how to control who's in your environment and who is in your meeting space. One thing that I touched on before with the security for the templates, if you have that reoccurring meeting, all the information that we're saving, that we're going through here, it'll save. So you won't have to enter in the topic, the description, all those other details when you're setting up your initial meeting. The template will save and you can just use that template to send out. Waiting room. So waiting room is a really, I love this feature on Zoom because it allows your participants to be in the waiting room, and you have that option to let them in manually, or if you want them to automatically join. We don't want to do that. You want to be able to control and prevent people from joining your meetings at all different times. And you want to be able to go in and manually approve them. So having a waiting room is really important, because that way, let's just say you're starting your meeting, it hasn't started yet, but you're in there discussing things with your panelists or with your committee. They won't be able to enter your room until you give the green light emit that they can come into the space. So that's very important to always have that waiting room option checked off. So for meetings, I suggest for your video, for the host video, for it to be on or off, you have the option. If you do go in and you say, I want it off, you can then choose to turn your video on. With participants, if it's a meeting format, you can choose to have them on or off, but you have the option once the meeting starts to be able to say, no, I want all the participants' video to be off. But my suggestion is to make sure that this is the more you can do before the event with setting up the event logistics wise, the better. So that way you're not in the midst of the meeting and now you are trying to navigate and know, okay, I wanted this person's video to be off, I want to mute them. No, do everything ahead of time. And the same thing, excuse me, with the audio, you can choose to use both for audio, but it's really good if you just select computer audio instead for this. And this allows you, when you're doing computer audio, this allows people not to be able to just call in, like use a telephone number, and you can avoid using the meeting password. So it's always good to have computer audio. Now, as we go into meeting options, allow participants to join anytime. No, you don't want to do that. You want to be able to control your meeting space. Mute participants upon entry, absolutely. This will allow them, if they are asking to speak, then you, the host or the co-host, would have to agree and say, yes, you can unmute. You have the host and the co-host has the option to control that, not the participants. You can pre-assign your breakout rooms, which is really good. And in here, you can just choose the number of participants. And this is good. Like and this is why registration is very important, because once they register, then you know how many breakout rooms you need to choose, and you can pre-assign those individuals in those rooms, or you can allow the system to just do it automatically. If you're deciding to record the meeting, this is a good thing to have checked off. if once your meeting starts. So the thing is, if you check off automatically record meeting, as soon as you enter your meeting space, and let's say your participants haven't joined yet, and you're having conversations, with your committee, it's going to record. As soon as the meeting is open, it's going to record automatically. So sometimes it's good, if you want, you can choose that option. Or if you would like to wait until all of your participants are in the meeting room and then actually go in at your toolbar and select record. You have the option of saving it on your local computer or in the cloud. I definitely would suggest doing it on your local computer. The cloud space, you don't have that much memory. So what you don't want is to use all of your cloud space, you're at full capacity, and some of your meeting is not able to fully download. So using your local computer is the best option, and you can send that out through email, put it into a Google folder if the file is too large. So a local computer is always the best way. Now here, approve and block entry from users from other countries. I have always have it select of allowing users that are in the United States, but you have the option to block regions and countries if you do so. Alternative hosts. So you have to have, and this is why it's important to have that Rutgers Zoom account, because you cannot add an alternative host if they do not have a Rutgers Zoom profile. And sometimes you would be able to search from here and start putting in their name, and then it'll bring up, try to locate them if you don't have their full name. And then you can select, and they will also receive an email that states you are the alternative meeting host for this particular event. So it's a kind of. So now that this is saved, when I was saying as far as the registration, oh, hold on, let's go back. Here is the registration link. The registration link will give them the option to choose if they can choose more than one. Yes, I can be at this, I can attend this meeting. No, I can't attend the others. This gives you the option. First name, last name, their email address, confirming your email, and then they'll register. Now, once they register, they will receive, there's nothing further action that's needed on your part. They will receive an email from Zoom saying about the event. Here's the registration, complete this, and that will follow by a confirmation email. So as soon as they register, then they will receive the confirmation email with their the Zoom link information and password. So I want to, let's go into here. Registration. Okay. Under the, once you hit edit under registration, it will list approval. You can approve them as soon as they register. Zoom will just send them the confirmation email with the meeting link. Or you can manually approve them, which means that the organizer will approve them before they receive the information on how to join the meeting. I think manually approving them is a great tool, especially to be able to, again, we're stressing the importance of safety and how to have a safe event virtually. This will be the best option, because if someone sends the registration link to someone else and they go in and they register and you have automatically approved, they will receive an email from Zoom with that information, with the information for your event. You also, the notifications to send an email to the host when someone's registered, that's another option that you have. Or you can just log into your profile and it will show at the bottom how many people registered for the event. So Zoom will collect that data and you will be able to export it. Allow attendees to join from multiple devices. So if they're, most of the time, we're on our laptop or we're, on our phone, you can just have them, just join from one device and not multiple devices. Show the social media share button on a registration page. This allows them to share the event on their personal social media platform. And I wouldn't suggest that, even though that there is registration, because this opens it up to the public. But if it's an open public forum event, yes, this is a great way to advertise the event. So then on that way, then selecting that option will be the best. You can customize the questions. As you saw, it's pretty much the generic questions are your first and last name, as well as your email address. And here it will say what's required. But if you want to collect more data, you can say, I want to know their organization. I want to know what city, or state that they live in, or you have the option to customize your own questions. The great thing about this, let's just say if you are hosting a, we're still in Black History Month, you're hosting an event, you want to know where, you have a panelist and you're asking, okay, I'm including the bios of some of the panelists and I want the participant to ask a question. You can collect that here by saying, do you have any questions in advance, which is good because that allows you, it gives the participants an opportunity to be able to ask those questions. And then it gives the host and the co-host ways to be able to filter through those questions and give it to the moderator or whoever is controlling the event, the Q&A portion of it. Branding settings. So if you want to add your logo on in your waiting room, or if you want to add it on the registration page, it's really simple. You can just upload it here. It gives you the image requirements. The same thing for your logo. So I think it's great because it adds a really nice personal touch to have your logo in there. So these are some really cool functions that Zoom allows you to do. Now for the poll, very simple. You add a question. It's always good to check off anonymous because some people may not feel comfortable, with the question that they're asking, or they may want to not just use their username because they want to remain anonymous. So this can be a bit tricky because as we're talking about in a safe form. So you can check that off to say, you know what, they can ask a question, but you also have control of it on the back end. You can control that that your participants are not seeing the question, that they can just see the response. So all of this can be controlled, excuse me, by the host and the co-host. Scroll up. So now you will see all of my upcoming events, and this is from what we put into the system today, setting up this meeting. It also will show your previous events, and here we go with your personal room. Now, your personal room, I think a lot of people choose to use their personal room because it's easier just to send your link out. And your password, you have the option of controlling it and changing it to whatever passcode that you wish to do so. But with this, people will know your meeting ID because that doesn't change and your password doesn't change. So in terms of creating an event, it's best to go through the stages of setting up an event and not using your personal room. Your personal room is good if you are just meeting with just your committee, or you want to have a brief meeting and you want to have to go through all the steps of setting up a meeting. That's great. If you're doing so, I advise you to change your password each time just to protect your Zoom account and to protect unwanted people from just tapping into your meeting space. All right. If you need to make edits to your event, you can do so. It's very simple. As you just saw, I just click the edit. Okay. Let's go back into here. Now, I didn't touch base, but the meeting ID. Allowing Zoom to generate a meeting ID automatically is the best option, and not using your personal meeting ID. So now you know this, which is going to be changed, but this was the personal meeting ID that I had for my personal room. And anyone that joins it, they can join with the link or the password. So I think that is the important thing of understanding the difference between having Zoom generate an ID for you and using your personal ID. And even when you're with the security setting with password, you can change this to whatever password that you want it to be. Okay. Again, I touched on the meeting templates. So the templates that, again, once you're saying, yes, you want, it's a reoccurring event and I want to create a template for it, perfect. You can go right in here and just use this template. It will save all the information. Granted, you'll just have to change the date, of course, but any detailed information, a topic, description, any settings that you had for your last meeting that you want to use for the next meeting, everything is saved here. So the only thing you would need to do is just now send the link out. You'll schedule a meeting and then you'll just send the link out from here. Okay. So now I want to touch on settings. Under meetings for security, require that all meetings are secure and one security option. Yes, you want to make sure that this option is checked off. And this will require that all meetings are secure with one of the following security options: the password, your waiting room, and authenticate users that can join the meeting. In your settings, you want to make sure that the waiting room is also enabled as well. And here I go where you can actually customize your waiting room. You can do so. You can add your logo. You can say something, something else. Now it says, please wait, the meeting host will let you in soon. You can add a description as well. For requiring passcode for participants by joining by phone. So again, it's when you send that out, and you can definitely, I encourage you to do tests test emails as well, just to make sure, send it to yourself, make sure that all the verbiage, make sure it looks right. But you will also notice that there is a password for people to use if they're joining by phone. You want to make sure if you're allowing people to join by phone that this is also enabled, that they will have to enter the password. Of these we discussed regarding, only authenticate users can join meeting from a web client. So I'm going to go into the importance of just allowing those controlling who can be in your meeting space. Let's open up. Let me try this. All right. Required authentication to join. This option is very important because this option allows only those that have a Rutgers Zoom account to be able to join the meeting, to be able to join your event. So when they're registering, they can't register from their Gmail account or another account. It has to be that they are joining from their Rutgers Zoom account. So under waiting room, you definitely want to make sure that you have this checked off. So I think at this time, I will open up to any questions that anyone might have, or any questions that are in the chat.
Hey everyone, Gilletta. I think we have definitely a good starting understanding of what this is looking like now that we approach Zoom, and especially in these spaces of being virtual. I'm going to go through some of the questions that were put in the chat. There are some good questions actually. Folks just had a curiosity of some things that are explained. I think some things may have been answered. So I am gonna just make sure that we can put it out. I'm gonna acknowledge Carolyn's question because Carolyn's like, oh, perfect, the way only Rutgers students can join. But the question for all those that said, one of the questions were, can we make sure only Rutgers students can register? So we just went through that last part, if I'm not mistaken, that Joletta just went through about making sure the Rutgers.edu is put out there. I have some thoughts also, but I want to make sure I go through the questions because those were things that were here piling up. Next question I see, Joletta, is our accounts have a time limit, right? So do accounts have a time limit? I'm taking a guess in reference to meetings and spaces.
No, so there's no time limit on there. And there's also the only, I guess really like the only amount of people that you can have, like participants, is just 300 for a student account, but there isn't a time limit. I mean, granted, most Zoom meetings are within like that hour because it's really how to cultivate and keep engage your audience. So that's why it's usually within an hour space, but no. And I can even going here, hold on. Okay. Zoom allows you to choose the duration of your, where is it? There we go. So my meeting is for 3 hours and 45 minutes, you know, it's for 4 hours, which is pretty long for a meeting, but you do have that option to go up to, look, it's a 24-hour meeting. So yeah, there's no duration time limit for the Rutgers license. I know that it is for Zoom personal account. If you have a free account, I think they give you about 40 minutes limit, but with the Rutgers license, there's no limit for your duration of your meeting.
I have Valeria who had a question specifically. She was one that asked the question. So Valeria?
Yes. The reason why I asked that was because there have been times where I have used my Rutgers student email to make meetings for, let's say, like group projects or what have you, and it says that I have a 45-minute time limit.
Hmm.
So I don't know, is that like a glitch or something?
That's interesting.
I think
Yeah.
that might be what she means, is that she uses her Rutgers email as the email base for her personal Zoom account. And so that's why she's still getting the time limits, because it's not through the Rutgers portal, which goes into what my question was as well, because for my primary Zoom account, I only have one. I used my Rutgers email for that. So I wasn't sure if, because of that, would it still be possible for me to create a Zoom profile, a Rutgers Zoom profile?
Yes. So you would have to, and going into it and registering, signing up for using your net ID and signing up for the Rutgers Zoom account, and make sure that you're logged out of your personal accounts, because sometimes what will happen is if you're still logged into your personal account and you just click Zoom, it'll redirect you to the account that's open. So you want to make sure that you are logged out of your personal account before you go into logging in or joining a meeting from your Rutgers account.
So when I log in, how do I log in? Do I need to go to a special site or?
So let me share this. So when you log in, and let me go back so you can see.
Yeah, I think that one, is.
Yeah. So when you log in, you're logging into ruckers.zoom.us.
There we go.
And like I said, if you don't, then you have to make sure that signing up, or even to make sure that you have a Rutgers account, because some people are like, oh no, I have it. But to make sure that you actually have the right account, the only account that you should be using, is to go here and go into this page, and this will prompt you. It'll redirect you to enter your net ID and password, but this will then direct you to the OIT Rutgers page to manage your services. And from here, you want to make sure that this is checked off.
Joletta, one more thing, because I think you touched it right there. I know that something that happened to me when I started to do the transition from Zoom, I had been using like another school email. I'm a student at another institution, and I use that to go into Zoom meetings. I set it up as that. I know that the Rutgers website, they also have a link that also aids you on how to transition that specific email for it to be a Zoom connected account with Rutgers. Because what ended up happening, there's a link if you go on the first page, like if you have an existing account, and it walks you through the steps verbatim. And I had to go through it, and like I had to like change password, change an email address to go to another one for it to work. But it is a common thing that does happen. And that's just because us as humans, in a sense, we've been used to just using something that's quick and easy, just like Joletta had mentioned, using the personal rooms because it's easier. We get in and boom. But I think when we look at it I think in these spaces, it's an opportunity for us to be a little bit more cognizant how exactly to be able to utilize it much better. And then also understand that there's some learning that there's some unlearning that has to be done and some learning that has to be done across everyone in order to make sure that they're able to effectively go in. And if all else fails, you do have the OIT Help Desk that they can be able to also go through a play-by-play. Sometimes, like at least for staff, I know what happens sometimes, and some students have done it before. They'll share, you'll talk to OIT, they'll aid you, and sometimes they may go into your laptop, depending if you give them the authority, and they can be able to walk through the steps as well. So especially with Zoom, that could be an option as well, just to let everybody know.
And they also, especially with the recent events with the Zoom bombing, but OIT has definitely, they have sent out emails on how to tips to avoid, Zoom bombing and unwanted guests. And then they also have provided great resources on their site as well. So that's always, I always say that's a good resource. They are the experts and go through the tools that they have provided to make your experience a lot easier, especially if you are, you have questions, or it's just not, it's, looking at the screenshots and the examples, it's still not adding up to what you're seeing. So again, definitely I encourage everyone to utilize their site, because it will list everything on there, or give them a call.
Exactly. Also, I want to put in this point because I think it's also important before I get into the next question. Also the need of also doing this was we wanted to provide also some sort of aid to help all of you as you're navigating this virtual world. And sometimes that means like, let's get something together that folks will get what they specifically need. And if there's questions, they can be to at least know that these things are available, that this presentation was available. But on top of it, that OIT is also just as a FYI that space in order to get the specified, because they are the experts within all this. So, that was, just wanted to point that out there also for the record. But hopefully, as we're taking kind of control of giving this presentation, it provides more or less for all of you an opportunity to get what we've learned from experiences, but most definitely a lot of it from Joletta that has been working with this as we're trying to also get into a space to come back physically one time in the future. It also means trying to strengthen our virtual engagement and our virtual opportunities on the internet. And that means by being able to learn how to use Zoom. So that's a big thing. With that being said, I do have another question. If we choose to mute participants, will they be able to turn on their mic later, or does that depend if we choose for them to share audio?
So that would depend on you as you're setting it up. I encourage you to not to allow them to be able to unmute themselves. And that you control that. So if, let's just say, if someone, you're in a meeting and they have something that they want to say, and notification will come across the screen to the host and the alternative host that Gary would like to unmute himself. Do you admit to unmute him? At that time, you can choose to say yes or no. And I think that's why going through the settings is really important, because Zoom has the functionalities to be able to provide with as much safety as possible for your event, and not allowing your participants to unmute themselves it's important, because that gives control for the host and the co-host to be able to control the event.
Exactamente, exactly. Thank you, Jalala. Beginning a thank you. The question was answered. Next one, if I use my Rutgers email for my primary Zoom account, can I still create a Rutgers Zoom profile? I think this may have been answered already, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Okay, cool. Just want to acknowledge. Let me see. There are no more questions in the chat. That's everyone's questions. Does anyone at this time have any further questions, comments, concerns? I think also for everybody on this chat, you can write it in the chat or unmute. Does anyone have any comments further on their Zoom experience that we may want to know, or like in a way we may be able to aid, or at this time this will be everything that you have received?
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
If I may, a lot of our events, particularly at Newman Catholic, because we also have a board at NJIT. So there's the Rutgers e-board, and then there's the NJIT e-board, because our campus ministry is based technically on 3 colleges, Essex County College, NJIT, and then Rutgers. So our Zoom link, the official one that we use, is the general basis for most of our events. It's what we send out in our newsletter and such. So I'm just wondering, as far as creating the Rutgers Zoom profile and everything as such, does this pertain particularly to when we have events that are solely that are solely geared towards Rutgers students? Is that the only time in which that's relevant? Because we've been doing events where we do it through the standard Zoom link that we have, because both NJIT and Rutgers students attend those events on Zoom.
Yeah, so you can use and I encourage you to use your Rutgers Zoom account. The only thing is that you can still do registration, absolutely, but you will not check off the authentication as far as with them having to have a Rutgers account. So
Okay.
you won't check that off, but even with not checking that off, you still will do the registration, and that will still give you the security tools to be able to control your event, but then offering your event to NJIT and the other sectors that you partner with. So that would be the only option for your events, to not check that box off, because they won't be able to access the link or any other communication that's going to come from that particular meeting.
Okay, so what I check off is essentially the end all be all.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
That's a great question. I know we have also some organizations that have the partnerships with NJIT. So that will provide you a little bit of relief, because I know those relationships are important. But as we know, and I explain this sometimes when my culture works, especially when I got here. It's just like when you're using funding, there has to be a certain amount extra Rutgers students, because you're paying fees and it provides all these services like the Zoom. So but also acknowledging at the end of the day that you do have those established relationships. So still working hand in hand to make sure that we can provide you the opportunities to still have those relationships virtually. But that means that that's where the learning comes into play, where registrations for Zoom will be the way to do it. Because I think as we continue to move forward within other opportunities for virtual engagement, I think there's going to be a point that we are going to be in a space that we're going to need to start understanding how do these controls for Zoom work much more intensively. Because I think at this point, it was just like, oh, let's just do it virtually, and then eventually we'll come back. But in all honesty, I think in a way also of preparation and also to empower yourselves is also understanding how this works. So then you're not in a situation that you can prevent what may occur, but also be empowered to know that you know what you're doing on Zoom. And it's okay that there's a space of learning still, because we're all adapting, we're all getting used to this. And that's why even more critical is the time that we wanted to put this time together for us to meet quickly, so that all of you can know how to use this and even get into that habit of registration. I have some orgs that sometimes are like, we don't want to do registration. It's easy that we have the waiting room, boom. That's cute. But what's going to happen is that if you're not in that space where you're keeping in mind the security of the rest of your Rutgers University-Newark community, that opens up the opportunities for things to not go smooth in your presentation. That's how, in a way, we're also trying that, you making the decision to come into this space shows that, one, you want to be able to continue to provide all that you can to the community, but also be empowered to use Zoom much more frequently to be able to help out your fellow colleagues so they can understand how to use it themselves. And then also it helps prevent also within safety, all of us together. Because at the end of the day, we wish we were also in a space that we were physically back. But, if we're not physically back, this is one of the ways we got to do it, except the fact that there's a way to approach safety. There's a way to approach, figuring out how many people are going to come to an event. There's a way to figure out what do we prepare, how much more energy or how much not enough energy we need to focus on a certain thing, because we'll have registrations and numbers and all those types of things. But all of it is all we're learning. So all you gotta take it.
So I think just to kind of touch base on just some key points and some takeaways from this is, one, add a passcode. Number one, important, do not use your personal meeting ID for public events. Even Rutgers events only, use your personal meeting ID for those quick check-ins, not for your meetings and your large scale events. And then change your password. If you have, like I said, the template and that password that you use for that last event is saved, you have the option to change your password. So, and if you don't want to go that route, then just allow Zoom to generate a password for you. That's the easiest way, just in case you forget. Only allowing Rutgers users to join. selecting that option if it's only for Rutgers students that are, in your orgs, and there's not other universities that you have partner with. But registration is important. Checking computer and the audio option. This allows you to ensure that unwanted guests cannot call in on the telephone number or avoid using the meeting password. So make sure that the computer audio is checked in. Again, don't share your meeting link in public forums if it's not a public event. Zoom always has updates that they do on your desktop and mobile, so you can always check and see if there's a latest version available. The next thing is don't allow enable join before host. You don't want your participants to be waiting for you and the host is not in the room yet. So make sure that option is also checked off. Limit screen sharing. Screen sharing should only be used for the host and the co-host, no one else. Your participants should not have the option to share their screen. Don't use your personal meeting Zoom ID. I touched on that. You also have the option to lock your session. Your session starts at 11:30. You give a 10-minute or 30-minute window, or once the program starts, you have the option to lock your session at a certain time. And then you also can remove unwanted participants if it comes down to it, just by moving your mouse over to the participant's name. And there's several options that will appear, and one option is remove.
Okay. Thank you, Jaletta. Thank you for those takeaways. And I want to say lastly, as a final takeaway, I think from our end, we are still going to be in this space. And I think at the end of, the pandemic we're going through and all these other kind of things that are going on in the culture, we're still going to be using Zoom. I think I tell this to my staff a lot in relation that sometimes it takes 21 days to build a habit, 21, 28 days. You get used to a certain habit. When you come back to campus, unless you're very intentional of breaking said habit, you will still be utilizing the same habit, which will be probably utilizing more Zoom to take care of business virtually when you haven't been able to, let's say, physically meet up. And it's okay to accept that new kind of normal. Some people say back to normal. I like to say new normal. It's okay to accept it. It's just making sure that you are 2 steps ahead to be ready to deal with what does that new normal look like when we want to get back to campus, or 2, as you want to continue to lead your organizations, your spaces, your areas of influence, that you're in a place of confidence and that you also have fun doing the things that you do. Because at the end of it, that is what is important, to kind of keep a new normal in front, but also be empowered to do the things that you need to do in Zoom. There's a question I want to ask everybody before we ended. But I do have one final question that I do have, and I'm going to put an assessment question in the chat and just answer. Someone, Mariani asked, I'm sorry, do you think you could go over how to make a logo for your meeting again? I missed that part.
So it's not how to make a logo, but you can upload your logo. And I'd be quick to just show you briefly how to do that. Let's go back into here. So you can do it under settings. Oh, here's the share screening, as that can only share as the host or all participants. So that was what I just touched on. I'm going to show you, where did it go to? Oh, here we go. Customize waiting room, or you can upload the image here, or you can upload the image, your logo, from once your event is set up. So here, edit.
Just as an FYI, I'm learning how to do this part too. So now
Let's just open up. All right. So under registration, now my computer's acting up. Here we go. Branding. Branding will allow you to, right here, to upload your image or upload your logo. So this is where you will go. Once your event is created, you will go back into it and you will have that option to add your logo to your poll and email settings. So that's where you will go to upload your logo for your event.
there we go.
And I encourage everyone, just briefly, you can't break the system. Go in, familiarize yourself with it, create some test events, get familiar with the different settings and the different things that we went over today. And whatever you do, you're not going to cause any harm to the system. You're not going to break it. So I encourage you to definitely go in and just start familiarizing yourself with all the Zoom functionalities.
Mm-hmm. I would agree, definitely. The question was answered. Yay, thank you. Everyone, at this time, I'm going to hit the stop record on this. So that will be the first at the end. I do want to thank everyone that came into the space, provided some opportunity, time. Your questions are great. There is a question that I put into the chat. If you haven't responded to it, just put it in. How comfortable do you feel in using Zoom as of now? At the end of this presentation, please put it in there. Joletta, thank you very much for your wisdom and time to put all this together. Definitely appreciate it. I'm seeing by the numbers. And also on top of it, lastly, we're going to be putting this presentation up for those that were not able to see this. And also if you need a refresher on everything that was talked about, you'll even get me and Joletta's, banter throughout some of this video. That will be recorded and you'll be able to see it there. But at this time, I'm gonna say thank you to everyone that was able to come to this space. Thank you for your time and effort. And please, anything, feel free to see us at the IRC. Or definitely please contact Joletta for any more questions in relation to not only Zoom, but the things that her and her team do as part of the PRCC. And most definitely, if anything, please feel free to reach out to us. Enjoy, if you're in the Jersey area, enjoy the snow, because it is snowing throughout this whole presentation. So if not, enjoy the fact there's no snow. And please enjoy, see, there you go, seeing the S's. On this point, please enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy your Monday. Please continue to stay safe. And we will hopefully be seeing all of you in the near future. Okay. Joletta, any final words?
Well, Gary, thank you for the opportunity. And it was great to connect with the student orgs. And again, you can reach out to me directly because I am over in the Office of Special Events. So I'll be happy to answer any of your questions. If you need assistance setting up your event, I'm fine with jumping on a call with you just to make sure that your event is smooth. And I just want to let you know I'm here in case you need anything. So feel free to reach out.
Thank you, Joletta. Thank you, everyone. Please enjoy the rest of your afternoon and please stay safe, okay?